Chapter 11 Mid-April brought longer days and lighter air, though the stress of exams hung over campus like a fog. Declan carried his backpack across the quad, the spring breeze tugging at his jacket. The trees were only beginning to bud, tiny green tips promising a season beyond the deadlines. Azalea was already waiting for him on the steps of the Student Union building, sketchbook balanced on her knees. She waved when she saw him, pink hair catching the sunlight. "You're late," she teased. Declan rolled his eyes, smiling despite the weight in his chest. 2 minutes doesn't count as late, her grin softened. "Guess I was just eager." He felt that word lodge in his chest, eager to see him. That thought carried him up the steps faster. Inside, the cafe smelled of coffee and bagels. They claimed a corner table, Declan spreading out his notes while Azalea tucked her sketchbook aside. "You sure you want to study with me?" he asked. "I'm not exactly thrilling company when I'm buried in history notes." "I don't mind," she said, sipping from her tea. "You make concentration feel less lonely." Her words hit harder than he expected. "She feels less lonely with me." He bent over his notes, pretending to read while his mind replayed it. For the first hour they worked quietly, the hum of the cafe filling the space. Every so often, Azalea's pencil sketched a little doodle in the corner of her notebook. A seagull, a coffee cup, once even Declan himself, brows furrowed in focus. When he caught her, she only grinned. "You're my best subject." Declan's ears warmed. "Pretty sure that's code for you make funny faces." "Maybe," she said with a laugh. "But they're my favorite faces." Later, when their brains felt fried, they packed up and wandered outside. The sun was low but still warm enough to walk without gloves. Azalea fell into step beside him. "Do you ever notice how exams make the world feel smaller, like all that matters is this one grade, this one test?" Declan nodded slowly. "Yeah, it's like life pauses for a month and resumes afterward." "But it doesn't really pause," she said thoughtfully. "We're still here, still growing." Her voice lingered in his mind. Growing. It sounded like more than exams. They stopped at the quad where patches of grass pushed through the damp soil. A group of students tossed a frisbee in the distance, their laughter drifting over. Declan shoved his hands into his pockets. "Sometimes I feel like I'm watching everyone else figure things out and I'm still stuck." Azalea glanced at him. "I don't think you're stuck. You just carry things heavier than most people." Her insight cut through him, clean and undeniable. He didn't answer right away, afraid his voice might betray how much it meant. Back at his place later that week, Azalea sat cross-legged on his living room floor, surrounded by her markers and sketchpad. Declan's textbooks were spread out across the coffee table, but he found himself more distracted by her than the pages. "Do your parents mind me hanging out here all the time?" she asked suddenly. "They like you," Declan said honestly. "Mom says you bring color into the house." Azalea smiled at that, brushing pink strands from her face. "That's sweet." Of course they like her, Declan thought. How could they not? The evening stretched quietly, the two of them working side by side. Declan caught himself listening to the scratch of her pencil more than the words in his textbook. At one point, she leaned back against the couch, eyes closing for just a second. Her head tilted toward his shoulder, brushing against it before she sat upright again, flustered. "Sorry," she murmured. "It's fine," he said quickly, heart thumping harder than it should have. "I didn't want you to move." When she finally packed up her things, the sky was dark. She lingered at the door, her sketchpad hugged to her chest. "Thanks for letting me basically invade your space all week," she said. "Anytime." Declan replied, his voice came out softer than intended. "Seriously, anytime." She hesitated, then smiled. "Careful, I might hold you to that." After she left, Declan leaned against the doorframe, exhaling. She already does, he thought, and I don't mind. Their routine deepened as the days passed. Campus walks, shared lunches. Even silence between them grew rich, carrying meaning without needing words. Declan noticed small things, the way she always saved the last sip of her drink for luck. How her laugh softened when it was just for him. How her eyes searched his face when she thought he wasn't looking. Each detail etched itself into him, subtle threads pulling tighter, weaving something neither of them named yet. One evening, after another long session at the library, they stepped outside into cool April air. The campus was quiet, lamplight glowing against the damp pavement. Azalea stretched her arms above her head. Freedom's almost here. Declan smiled faintly. You mean when exams end or when the world makes sense again? Both, she said, and their eyes met in the glow of the streetlight. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was steady, assured. A silence that felt like promise. As he walked her back to her dorm, Declan's thoughts spun. She fits so easily into my life now. Like she's always been here. He wanted to say it, to admit how much she meant already, but something held him back. Maybe the timing, maybe fear. For now, he told himself, it was enough to walk beside her. At her door, Azalea lingered again, fingers tracing the edge of her key card. Good luck tomorrow, Declan said. She smiled softly. You too, don't overthink everything. As she slipped inside, Declan stood in the hallway a moment longer, heart tugging at him. Growing closer, he thought. And I don't want it to stop.